Welcome. In the last video, we looked at the Meta's new CSS style library, StyleX. We started with some installation steps, how we can set up a project with React. Afterwards, we created some basic style components. Then we also looked at some of the aspects of the library, including how we can do conditional styling, how we can pass them styles as props to the child components, and also we looked at dynamic styles as well. Now today we will be looking at how we can create different themes based on our project requirements using the StyleX ecosystem, and how we can define those CSS variables and then we can seamlessly use those into our components. So let's get started. So here, if we go to defining variables section, we can see that again, defining variables, how we can define them. There are different rules that they have provided, and using them is pretty straightforward. So in our create function that they have provided, we can simply use our tokens from those defined styles or defined variables, and we can directly use them as variables. And if we just quickly have a look at the creating theming section, again, they provide a create theme function. And the important thing is that we have to use our token that we defined in the previous step. And the theme needs to define all the variables that were defined in the define Vars section. So create theme also needs to provide the information for all those variables. So that's the idea. Let's jump back into the code. So if we look at the code, we can see in the last video we were in this state. Now what we want to do is let's quickly jump back to Figma, where I've created this very basic color palette, you can say. So what I do is I pick two colors based on what I want to do with the theme or with the project, and these two, the third one obviously is pretty standard, so it's the different shades of white and gray. So that's the primary color, that's the secondary color. So I choose two colors and I put them in the center, then I put two at the top and two at the bottom. So these are like the normal primary colors, and this one is like primary light color, this is primary lightest, and then from here it becomes primary dark and primary darkest, or bright and brightest. Similarly, this is an accent color, and this again becomes dark darkest and light lightest. So that's pretty much a very simple theme setup that I generally use. And let's come back to our project and let's define these using the define Vars function. Right, so what we need to do is we need to create a new file to define those. So we can call it tokens, but the important thing is we have to suffix it with styles dot. So that's how it is. So you have to suffix it with stylex.ts. Now, so we can quickly start to define our variables. So we will just start with we'll import the StyleX. So that's the first thing that we will do. Then what we need to do is we'll start defining our variables here. So let's call it the theme tokens. Then primary variable, again I have the colors from the palette as I mentioned, so I'm just going to define primary light, lightest, and dark, darkest. Then accent color I'll define, so I'll just repeat this for all the variables from the color palette. gray light, then gray lightest, then we'll define the gray dark and gray darkest. Now we will also define some standard variables for margins and paddings, so that way it will help us with um, just standardizing those in the theme as well. Again, we can just define some breakpoints for margins and paddings, and then we can use those. Right, so our tokens file is ready. Now what we need to do is we need to define our themes file, where we can define different themes that will use these tokens to define color schemes. So what I will do is now I'll create a new file called themes.ts, and what I'll do here is I've just used the theme token, imported it from the themes file, and I've used that to define different variables here using that same thing. Though I've just for the simplicity, I've defined a red theme and I've defined a blue theme, just so that we can differentiate between them when we are using them into our components. So the variables I've defined, the themes have been defined. So let's go to our components and start using these. So back to our buttons component, we will just import those themes and tokens as well. So let's just quickly do that. So we will import it from styles and themes, and we will import blue theme. And the other thing that we need to import are the tokens. So again, import from theme tokens. So we have imported these two. Now let's first use the blue theme. So what we need to do is, in our props function, we need to pass the blue theme as the first parameter, or as the very first base style. So that uses the theme, and then the subsequent styles are overridden based on that theme file. So that's how you provide the theme to the component. And in our button styles, what we can do is, let's just quickly define some variable changes. So if we come here for the active, let's just define it as theme tokens. So let's just call it the accent color for this. Again, let's just put the accent lightest color for the color palette. For the primary colors, this should be primary. And for the hover, let's just put primary dark. And for the color, let's reverse it. So theme tokens dot primary lightest, and theme tokens dot primary lightest here as well. For the inverted button, again we will put the primary lightest. The color would be primary darkest. Let's just put primary. And border would become, if we want to invert it, we need to use the same color that we have used here as the border. Let's quickly have a look. Yeah, as you can see, the primary color has been applied and the primary darkest has also been applied. Right. As you can see, we can use these variables and this theming to define those in our component. So I'll quickly do that for our card component as well, and then we will try to do a one very basic container component just to get the feel of these theming system. Right, so I have just quickly applied this with all the changes to the button component. I've also applied the changes to the card component as well. So I've used the theme tokens wherever they were needed. And if we can have a quick look how it looks, as you can see, I've just updated the names as well, the labels. So this is the primary button. This is the primary override that we did the style override in the first part of the video. This is the inverted button, and this is the disabled button. And this is the card component, which again, using the title of the card here, and it's wrapping around this button component in our home page. So that's how it looks like. Now we'll just try to do a quick thing and see if it works. So we will try to update the theme to a different color, because we had red color theme as well. So let's try to switch it and see if it works. Right, if we go to our button component, so let's just add red theme. Yeah, you can see here now the red theme has been applied. So now, as you can see, based on the things that we learned in our first video, based on conditional styling or passing styles as props, you can actually create or change themes dynamically based on certain conditions as well. So we have defined all the themes, but we can select a specific theme based on our conditions, and that same condition, based on that same condition, we can provide the theme here, so that dynamic theming can be implemented in a very straightforward way. Just to wrap it up, let's quickly create a container component as well. So in our common component, let's create a new folder for container. Let's create a new file for index, and also a new file for container.tsx. So in our index, we will just export star from /container. And in our container, let's quickly just define some styles here. So container styles, again, we'll use the StyleX create. We will define the defaults for our container. Again, width, it depends on our container requirements, so we'll just put some basic stuff here. For the padding, we are using the token as well. We've provided the width as well. And just for the flex container, we will just use display flex here so that we can test it out. So that is our container defined as well. And let's see how it works. We'll use it in our home component. Let's go to our home component, and from there, let's try to include the container. Actually, we forgot to export it from here. Now it should work. Yeah. Now coming down here, let's just wrap these into a container. And let's just put block. And let's quickly have a look. Yeah, our container is working fine. Now you see all the content has moved towards right. Just to test it out, let's put another container around our card as well. And this time, let's create the flex container. Right. Let's quickly have a look. So our card component is inside the container, but I guess to test it out properly, let's put it with the buttons. Yeah, now you can see they are in a flex container rather than a blocked container. So we are able to use this styling from our StyleX. We've created some basic components as well, and I think it provides a very simple and very useful interface to create dynamic themes. And as you have seen, it was really straightforward to create the tokens, define those variables, and then start creating themes. And the good thing is that the themes have to include all the variables that we have defined. So that way, the themes will be consistent and the design will be consistent as well. I hope you liked the video. Please share and subscribe, and see you in the next video.